Welcome back to the Restaurant Technology Guys podcast. Thank you, audience out there, for joining us. As I say each and every time, I know you guys have got lots of choices in the world of streaming media. So I appreciate you guys spending time with each and every week when we come on the air. Today is one of my favorite kind of episodes because I am talking to a restaurant operator who happens to be a kitchen guy. And so I'm going to let Jim introduce himself. Jim Little, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience? Who is Jim Little? And then we can talk a little bit about what you get the privilege of doing in your day job.
Yeah, you said I'm a kitchen guy. I'm actually 25, but this is what working in the kitchen makes you look like. So,
oh, got you. Yeah, so I was talking to somebody. I was talking to a previous guest, and I think this will probably resonate with you a little bit. I do think there needs to be a full psychological deal for former restaurant operators when they're dealing with these things, because it can mess with your brain in a good way and in a bad way from time to time. So there's some certain pain that we deal with in the restaurant industry for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm Jim Little, the Culinary Director of Innovation with Black Angus. We are a 32-unit steakhouse across the West Coast and one island location on the island of Hawaii. Then also locations New Mexico and Arizona as well, but mostly California, Pacific Northwest.
And what, I guess, talk a little bit about your background. Where you've been at Black Angus for 18 months or so, a little bit over a year. Where were you at before? Talk to me a little bit about your background, because as you said, you're only 25, so just a couple years ago after you graduated college. But with that, it sounds like you've done a couple of different things in the space in the past.
So I went to culinary school right out of high school. Graduated from Johnson & Wales University. Got a degree there, a bachelor's degree there. Actually went back to school about 2 years ago, finished up and got my MBA in supply chain and operations. So I had my left brain started talking to my right brain and vice versa, so we could all get along and make some progress. I've traveled quite a bit. The beauty of working in restaurants is you do get to travel. So I've lived in South Carolina, worked in restaurants in Charleston, lived in San Francisco, worked in some restaurants there. For the last 20 years, I've lived in San Diego. Previously was with Jack in the Box for a couple of years doing product development with them, which is a great experience. And prior to that, I was with a company called Burger Lounge, which is a West Coast fast casual burger chain. Helped start that company from one restaurant to 25. So kind of watched, what to do and what not to do as you grow an organization, mostly what not to do. But gathered all those experiences from operations to food knowledge, and been able to implement here in this current role.
I love it, and I am a huge fan of the Burger Lounge concept. There was one that was close to our office, our Irvine office, the one in that's right across the street from the Irvine Spectrum. So that was a frequent spot for us when it opened and when I was still living there, and so familiar with that. And then we had Jack in the Box on a while back. Ryan from the marketing team, I think, was on the show a while back, talking about their loyalty push and such. So Jack in the Box, because I was a former San Diego State guy, so I got to go to the Jack. There's a Jack in the Box on campus there that I frequented when I was still in school. That was only a couple years ago, because me, like you, I'm only 25. Thereabouts. So
it's right next to the 7-Eleven. I hear there's you could buy a beverage, sort of adult beverage at 7-Eleven, then you go to the Jack in the Box and finish it off, I guess you could say. So
that absolutely may have happened once or twice when I was in college, for sure.
Yeah.
And underage drinking probably was a thing back then too, but we're not going to talk about that now.
Yeah. And I mean, Jack and Black Angus kind of share some of those same similarities, just those two iconic brands that have been around for so long. So it's pretty fortunate to be a part of both of those.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about, for those that are less familiar, we've got a mostly national audience, but we do get some downloads from Australia and Europe and Asia. So for those that are not familiar with the Black Angus group, I happen to grow up in Southern California, so very familiar with it. Saw it at its highs and saw a little bit of a decline, and every time I've ever been there, it's been a fantastic experience. So what is Black Angus for those that are less familiar, and then we can talk a little bit about kind of where you guys are at and what you guys are looking to do.
Yeah, I mean, we're really founded on just being that steakhouse for the working class. So you're going to get a great quality steak. I always say you're coming in for 2 meals, because you're 100% bringing leftovers home. There's just no way you're not finishing it all, especially with some of our our campfire feast, which includes a ton of courses, dessert, and our desserts are just, they're giant pieces of cake or whatever we have. So I mean, that's really what we're founded on. So it's scratch made, great steak, very casual atmosphere, but kind of that upscale feeling of the quality of food you're getting, and obviously you're getting items that you expect to have at a steakhouse, traditional sides, salads, and then also great cocktails. We've really upped our cocktail list and have some really, really cool craft cocktails that we've been putting out.
Yeah, and again, for those that are less familiar, having been to the brand quite a few times, as throughout the years, to me, one of the things that I find about your brand, a lot of steakhouses, I would say, are not approachable. They're date night places. They're places where you're not going to be able to go with a family or whereas your guys' brand, you can frequent it that way. You can use it as an anniversary dinner place. You can use it as a birthday dinner celebration place, but you can also go on a Tuesday night and go enjoy a fantastic meal at an affordable price. Talk to me a little bit about how you guys consider that, especially as you're dealing with menu innovation and the approachability, because, Ruth Chris is amazing, but you're probably not going to go there just on a basic Tuesday night unless unless you've got some significant disposable income kind of thing.
Sure.
Whereas your guys' brand, I feel like is in a place that it can be approachable and you can have it on a semi-regular basis, as opposed to some of those higher end places.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's like you said, you can bring the kids with you or leave them home. It's just kind of, we've created that opportunity to have either experience. So, and I think on the menu, we have such a large variation of price point where we have some experience dinners on the menu that are a little higher price, that you can do or order if, you're going there on a date, on, like you said, on a Tuesday night or a special occasion. If you're going there with your family of 4, there's steak. We have a steak under 20. That would be a great option as well too. So I think it's kind of like a good balance of what you're trying to achieve when you're going out. If it's a special occasion of 20 people, then we have opportunity for that as well too. So I think we really can encompass every event that you need to do when you're out there looking for selections.
Yeah, and I guess dig a little bit deeper, Jim, into menu innovation as you're dealing with that, because that's hard to execute against. I mean, it's hard to execute against those different levels of price points. And again, taking nothing against some of the brands that are value brands. It's kind of consistent and everything's value, and then you get those brands that are super high end. Whereas you've got to straddle that. You've got to have something for that date night. You've got to have something for that anniversary dinner, that 50th wedding anniversary, because they really wanted to go into Black Angus because they've been going there for years, and that kind of thing. Yep. On to my family, that's a family of 6 that might need to be able to feed them more affordably, and I can't go afford $250 for 6 of us to go have dinner.
Yeah, sure. I think for me, at least, with my mindset of innovation is, if you're creating a dish, you have majority of the ingredients are familiar, so a guest knows what it is, but maybe there's 1 or 2 items on there that are kind of unique that maybe you've never heard of, and that kind of adds more value to it. So it's like, well, that's interesting. So for example, we have, right now we're doing a filet with shallot bacon butter, which all sounds pretty similar, but we're grilling it and finishing it on a cedar plank. So just a little bit of innovation in there that's kind of intriguing, that you wouldn't get if you just ordered a standard ribeye, with mashed potatoes. So I think that's kind of how we can balance it and kind of incrementally innovate throughout the menu. And then of course we, keeping those standard items on the menu that have been there forever. Our fried zucchini, it's been, it's a staple. If that came off the menu, there'd be my face would be up in the post office if there's any left out there.
Yeah,
but I mean,
exactly. They'd be like, "Hey, we're looking for a new culinary director because
exactly,
there's so many complaints."
Exactly. And I was told that when I started too. So that is a fact. And I 100% agree. But I think you can take that item and include it in another dish somehow, and kind of break off and make a line extension of it. This way, it's, oh, hey, I love the zucchini. Oh, now it's on this item. Well, that might be pretty good. Let me try that. And that's kind of the way we can kind of incorporate, kind of branching out and adding in some innovation.
Yeah. One of the other things I remember about your guys' brand, Jim, and I guess talk to me a little bit about kind of the grilled nature of things, because I know a lot of steakhouses, they throw grill marks on it, but it's not really a grilled steak. And from that perspective, that always seemed to play a part in your guys' experience, getting those grill marks, getting that almost outdoor barbecue feel, but in a restaurant, whereas a lot of places don't. Talk to me again, how do you think about that as you're going through and hearing guest sentiments and watching product come out of the kitchens? Talk to me a little bit about that experience, because I I do find it to be somewhat unique the way you guys do it. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like a chain restaurant type experience when I go in. That's, I guess, part of my reasoning behind asking that question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we use open flame grills. We season every steak with our steak seasoning, our proprietary blend. So we're brushing with garlic butter. So those are just those touches. It's like, this steak is really good, but I don't know why. They're doing something to it, but I can't figure it out. It's like when you get a hamburger and you're like, oh, this hamburger is pretty good, but it has a really good crust and a really good sear on. And you're like, wow, this is really good. But I'm not sure why, but that's the difference. So I think, our chefs, which are amazing in the kitchen, are able to achieve that. And again, like you said, just using that, if I was in my backyard on my Weber grilling a steak, it's really the same thing we're doing. We're just doing it in a commercial setting.
And doing it at scale.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing that I know we talked also about is just how do you keep that consistent? Talk to me a little bit about, because you're creating products that that you've got 30 some restaurants, which, are going to have anywhere between 2 and 6, cooks cooking that steak, but they've got to be able to execute, because if not, then, kind of like you were joking about taking the zucchini off the menu.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about how you guys manage that and how you guys deal with that.
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to communication. It comes down to training. And I think, we as a brand are fortunate where our chefs has been there for a long time. I mean, they are dialed in and exactly what the expectation is. And they're dialed into what our guests want too. So, I mean, they know, everyone has an opinion about steak temperatures and eggs, right?
Yeah.
They have exactly what a scrambled egg is or an over easy egg is or a steak temperature. But I think our grill cooks and our chefs are so seasoned that they know exactly how to deliver that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. As I was doing a little bit of research before the show, and you talked about it earlier, you guys have come up with some pretty unique, I guess some larger portion sizes, shared plates, and those kind of things. Talk to me a little bit about what that means and kind of what's resonating with guests, as it relates to that. You've got the you see on TikTok or on YouTube these bone-in ribeyes that everybody's grilling over open flames. Talk to me a little bit about how you guys consider that and what's resonating with the consumer in that setting as it relates to the larger portion sizes that are going to create that memorable experience. Because I have a strong belief that there's multiple types of restaurants and multiple types of restaurant experiences. You've got the restaurant experience, which is really, I'm going to feed my family. And then there's the experience. But to me, those larger portion sizes are experiential and they create a different vibe.
Yeah, and they do, and they definitely add some drama to the table as well too, and into the dining room. So I mean, our tomahawk right now for 2, I mean that's fantastic, and it comes with 4 sides, and like you said, it's a memorable experience. So that's like one of those items where if you saw it at the grocery store, you're not sure if you just want to spend $150 on a steak to bring home and cook for your family. So let us do it and we'll take care of it for you, and you can come in and remember, instead of stressing about, I just spent all this money on this steak and I'm not sure if I know how to cook it. So I mean, that's kind of the one thing about it. But I think the larger portions is just, and I think it's back to hospitality 101. And I think that's something that's really important too, is just our guests coming in and gathering, and we're inviting them and we're showing them a great time. We're engaging in them. We're, taking care of what they need. If, we're walking by a table, a napkin falls, we pick it up for them or replace it. Like, I think those touches where we can add, are just those foundations of hospitality. I think that, I think if everyone could get back to, and I think it's really important to get back to that, it really creates, a great experience. And, going out to eat has become more expensive. So yes. I think, where you can add in those great touches to dining is super important. And just kind of having that clairvoyance to know what the guest needs, I think is really critical right now.
Yeah. And we talk about it all the time on the show, is guest experience ultimately trumps almost everything. Not even almost everything. It trumps everything, because at the end of the day, they're going for an experience, and that experience may be just to feed their family. And you got to figure out if that's the type of brand that you are, figure out how to feed their family, be efficient, have the menu items that are on the menu that they want, the fried zucchini, because every Tuesday night I come in and I want my fried zucchini or whatever that might be. And then there's the people that want the guest experience that's, I want to be served. I want to be catered to. I want the wine that's on the list. I want that ribeye and I want it to be cooked properly. And I want my sides, my, mashed potatoes to show up the way that I want, or my baked potato to show up the way that I want. So we talk a lot about that. you talked about the cooks and the kitchen staff. How do you guys think about, and how do you think about even the front of the house? Because you've got a counterpart, I'm assuming, on the operations side that you've got to work closely with to make sure that they're executing against your vision, not just that the food's coming out of the kitchen properly, but then that they're getting the product to the guest and you're getting feedback.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is culture and buy-in too. And again, much like our chefs, we have a lot of seasoned servers, and we always say our best servers in Burbank are in Burbank, just because they probably want to be actors someday or close to it or something. So, but we all know that about LA. But I think I think it's just really believing in what they're doing, and and pride in what they're serving. So they know when they grab that plate from the window and bring it to the tables, it's exactly right. It's exactly what it intended to be. And they know I know there's nothing better than a server feeling when you bring food to a table and the guest is going to love it, and there's not a complaint and there's not an issue. So I think when we achieve that and look to achieving that, and then that's success.
All right, I'm going to pivot a little bit here. Talk to me about new menu rollouts. You talked about new menu rollouts. Talk to me about the process and what you go through, because some of our audience members haven't had the experience that you've had. Some of the people are in this place where they may own one restaurant. They may dream of owning a restaurant one day. You've got to constantly be innovating so that you're in the front of the guests and you're hearing what they're saying. You're going out and talking to your purveyors about what are the products that may be resonating with the guests. And you've got to come up with something. You got to make sure that it's consistent. You got to make sure that there's a recipe there. You got to make sure that you've got 60 different cooks or chefs that can cook it. How do you think about that? What happens in those? I was just watching. I've told a couple of guests this recently. My daughter's in a culinary program here in high school in Dallas, which is really, really cool. Awesome. She's a sophomore in high school, and one of the things that they made them watch is the Food That Built America on the History Channel. And I don't know if you've checked any of that out, but
super cool. Yep.
But I was just watching the episode where McDonald's, the French chef, came over and he introduced, ultimately after 15 different iterations, the chicken nugget, the chicken McNugget. But it took him almost 10 years of innovation to continue to try and for them to fail, because he tried multiple different chicken things before he ultimately came up with the chicken nugget, ultimately to do that. I can imagine that's your world. You've got to be constantly creating. You've got to constantly be innovating and then putting it out in front of people. And then you've got to figure out how to get them to execute it in the kitchen, how to get them to talk about it in the front of the house. Talk to me about what is the process that you guys go through at Black Angus. So sorry for that long interlude, but
there's a lot to it. There is. I mean, and then you touched on a point with with vendors, and it does start there and see if it's produce, any of our other vendors, how can they support us and how can they help us? What's in season right now, and even what's a good value, what's a good buy right now, because the more work we do on the supply chain side to keep our costs down, we can deliver that to the guests and keep our costs down as well too. So that it definitely starts with there. For myself, it's social media. Obviously, at this point, it's a lot. It's hours of scrolling. It's
how do you stay thin then? Because I sit and watch the stuff. My wife was watching over my shoulder the other day. She's like, "No wonder you want smash burgers every day, because you see them on your freaking thing all day long." And I'm like, "Shut up, stop, leave me alone." So sorry to interject.
Yeah, no. And if I'm thinking of new ideas and testing things, if it's if it was salmon, my family would be eating salmon for a week and they'd be very frustrated after 7 days. So there's a lot of that too. But yeah, I mean, definitely utilizing social media. I think for myself too, as far as execution is, my first job was a dishwasher. I was 17, washing dishes, prepping, went to culinary school, worked as a grill cook, fry cook, prep cook, had 2 jobs, used to go to the wrong job sometimes because I couldn't remember which one I was supposed to go to. So, I mean, I think, I understand the mindset of what's going on in the kitchen and what it needs to execute a product. So I think that's a big part of it. And then it's also just, my past experiences, or, maybe I used some sort of mashed potato somewhere, but how can I make that on brand with Black Angus? So that's a big part of it. It's really taking things that I've done and, what fits the guests and keeping them on brand. So, but it's constant. Innovation doesn't stop. I mean, you could see a commercial for Wendy's and say, oh, wow, that actually, I could put that on a steak, or that might work for mac and cheese, So it's just kind of always being in that mindset, is really a big part of it. And it's usually utilizing our staff, our cooks. Sometimes I look what they made for lunch. I'm like, wow, that looks really good. I bet you we can use that somehow. So, It comes from everywhere, and it comes from, I think, the culinary opinion is a great opinion, but so is our guest opinion. So there's two different mindsets of how you think about food, and I think we have to always cater to our guests and what they want. So it's old cookbooks I have. It's locking myself in a room till 3 a.m. sometimes, or just waking up at 2 a.m. and, oh, that's a good idea, that might work, and then start thinking about it. So it just kind of just keeps going.
I love that. I love that idea and how you come up with stuff, because I think to your point, and we talked about it a little bit pre-show, it's like we got to make sure that we're constantly in front of the guests, giving them what they want, what they need, and being able to execute it at a high level. Because without it, you end up being and we talked about one of our clients, the Cheesecake Factory, earlier. Like, one of the things their CEO says is he wants to make sure that there's not a veto. Part of why he's got such a broad menu is he doesn't want to veto. When a family of four is ready to go out to eat, he wants to know that everybody can get something they want. And you have to constantly be innovating and being something new, because there's always one of those people in the family that's like, I'm not going to try something that I've always tried, because if they don't feel like a ribeye today and that's the only thing they've ever had, they've got to know that there's salmon. They've got to know that there's grilled shrimp, or there's quinoa on the menu and it was never there before. So when they show up, they see something new and innovative. You guys recently, maybe it's been a little ways, you guys have launched loyalty. Talk to me a little bit about why, we've had a few loyalty providers come on. We've had some customers come on that are restaurant brands talk about loyalty. How does Black Angus think about loyalty? Because to me, I think of the brand as a lot of people are really, really loyal, because they're constant guests. So to me, the people that go to Black Angus are the people that go to Black Angus. They're there. They're there on the regular. So, talk to me a little bit about how you guys think about loyalty, and what is it given to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to be loyal to those loyalty guests, right? So, I mean, I think that's a big part of it, and taking care of them. So, when they download our app, they have different promotions that we're offering that are available to them, and discounts. And, there's a million ways, as we can leverage that if we want, or secret menu stuff, or, some other things. But I think it's just like, it's like paying respect to those guests that have been coming in for 30 years, and here's how we're going to treat you, because we owe that to you. So I think that's a good foundation of it, and then obviously using it to grow new guests too, as well. So I think it's a little bit of maintaining it all.
So in that, I had a very interesting experience for me, because I'm in restaurants, I'm in restaurant tech, and I had not experienced this yet. I went into one of companies' apps that I happen to frequent for lunch, and I was short on time. This is a true statement. I was short on time. I only had 30 minutes for lunch, and it was a 10-minute drive to the place and 10-minute drive back. So I only really had 10 minutes to get in and out. So I was like, maybe I'll just jump on the app. Probably shouldn't have done this while I was driving. I was sitting at a stoplight, and I jumped on the app, and I found a half a dozen items that said app only. And I thought it was a very interesting concept, and it was through their loyalty app, but they were only available. And I went in and tried to order that, because that it happened to be a sandwich place, and that sandwich sounded good. And I walked into the property. They said, unfortunately, sir, we can't serve it to you. You have to order it on the app. If you want, you can go order it on the app. While I don't agree with that guest experience side, that was part of them trying to drive that behavior that says, you're thinking about this brand, you're on the app. Have you guys considered doing any of those things? You talked about special menu items. My wife grew up, and she used to work at In-N-Out. In-N-Out's always had a, secret, you're a Southern California guy. They've got this secret menu of these different items that you can order, with all these code names. Have you guys considered doing any of that for your loyal guests?
Yeah, so we do have some online promotions that are only online right now, and yes, I agree. If someone came in and wanted to order that, we would 100% give that to them.
You very much should, but that's a different topic for a different day.
That's another
brand. I'm not going to bring brand names into it.
No, but and I think so we are definitely offering that, and and again, to grow that side of the business. It's just so critical in that digital experience. So that's something we've started doing and will continue to do, is just online or app opportunities for our guests to order.
Yeah. So in that, Jim, talk to me a little bit about how you consider food traveling. To me, one of the biggest challenges that I have with certain products is certain products travel really well. Pizza and Chinese food have always traveled well. You guys got the privilege. I mean, you were at Jack in the Box during the beginning of the pandemic, and then have been there for a little while. But now more and more people are driven to order on an app and either pick it up or have it delivered to them. And at the same time, steak doesn't taste the same, 20 minutes later as it does right when it comes off the grill and it's been sitting for 2 or 3 minutes resting before it hits your table.
Yep.
How have you guys overcome that? Has it changed menu innovation? Has it changed even what you guys offer online? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think this is something we're continuing to work on. So we are looking at some new containers right now. So just again, innovation just isn't food, right? It's technology, it's paper goods, it's all that. So we're looking at a new container that's a little more durable, where if I took a knife to it and cut a steak in it, it would hold up. It wouldn't cut into my leg if I was sitting at the stoplight, eating my fillet. So that's one thing that we're doing. We also, we encourage our guests, if someone loves their steak medium rare, we encourage them to order it rare, and we do note that with the online ordering, just so if it does arrive by the time they get it home, as you know, third-party delivery could be anywhere from 15 minutes to 4 days, depending on your driver.
If you ever get your food,
or if you ever get your food. So that's one thing we can combat that as well too. And we have some other ideas, and maybe some reheating instructions or some different things that we can do to help create that in-house experience at your home as much as possible. So definitely work in progress. We know it's important, and that's definitely something on our radar to keep growing.
Yeah, as I had a previous guest who was a breakfast concept, he's like, nobody wants cold eggs, and at the end of the day, that was kind of his thing, and he was struggling to kind of figure out how to get a breakfast. Pancakes and French toast and waffles are probably fine, and third-party delivery in a clamshell. But even he had to change some of his stuff because the condensation coming off of it would end up making the waffle soggy that was supposed to be crispy or whatever else.
So, sure. Yep.
So, packaging is a critical part. And I think, have you guys had to take anything off of your online menu? I guess I'd love to understand. Have you guys considered that, or you guys still serve everything? Again, I don't know, I'm looking, the fried zucchini is probably fantastic in property, but fried foods don't carry as well as they do sitting, right out of the fryer 2 or 3 minutes after they got done frying.
Yeah, I mean, one thing what helps with fried food is just to give it that maybe 2 minutes to vent before you close the lid. Just let the action finish before you close the lid. That does help with fried food. We have not, and I think we haven't seen the need to, but I think it's also, we wouldn't want a guest to go order something they love and they can't find it. So if it's there, and maybe we can improve their experience, we'll continue to work on that. But I think it's just having everything available, I think is critical.
Got ya. So this is going to go, I don't want to say personal because it's not really that personal, but what is your go-to when you're at Black Angus? What do you go, typically restaurant people, and I love asking this question, and I promise you it's probably not on the menu as a standard menu item. You're going to mix some things up. Again, like I said, my wife, worked at In-N-Out, and the way she orders her cheeseburger, I'm like, I've never seen that anywhere. And she's like, nobody else does it this way, but the way she has her fries are very different. But as you're living in the brand, and I'm sure if I went back to Burger Lounge or Jack in the Box, you probably had certain things you're like, oh, I mixed this plus this plus this, and I get what I want. So what is your go-to? What is your go-to to suggest to a guest if they were to ask you what you want? And then what do you actually eat?
I might regret suggesting things. I feel some server calls coming at me.
But you're going to have such high guest satisfaction scores. They're going to give you 5 stars on Yelp and on Google. So that'll be perfect.
Yeah, one thing that's like really simple, and we kind of stumbled on it, and it was we actually just launched a very small breakfast / kind of brunch menu to our Albuquerque location, just as a test. So we're opening an hour earlier just to kind of see what we can do there. We've never really done brunch, but we have bar, we have screens, we have football. So that's like, maybe there's something here. So we're kind of slow rolling it out just kind of quietly, but our molasses bread, which again, another staple, with our guacamole on it, is grilled. So if you just grill it, get it a little black, kind of charred, and then spread that guac on it, it's fantastic. I think I ate 2 loaves of it one day. I ate one, it was 4 slices. Then I went back and I'm like, this was so good. And I will for the record say I did not eat that day. It was like 3 o'clock. I was starving. But it's really fantastic. So it's like this steakhouse Black Angus version of avocado toast.
I was gonna say it's the California staple avocado toast for sure.
Yeah, but it's like so simple, and those 2 ingredients are right there. And then I'm like, start thinking like, oh, I could probably like slice in New York and put it on there and be fantastic too. So I think like that is really good. Or sometimes I just have a ribeye because they're good, and
Oh yes,
and I don't need a side. Just steak and our garlic butter, and it's fantastic. So that's it for right now. But again, like I said, the prep cook tomorrow could be doing something with a baked potato, and that might be my next go-to. So
well, I was gonna say, and I hope that if you get a bunch of server complaints, I get a text from you or an email from you saying, "Darn it, why'd you put that out on the internet?" Because now all these people are asking me about the stupid avocado toast that I don't really want to make. Or you're taking up grill space from me that should have steaks on it to grill bread, and we're making less margin than we should or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
So, that's funny. I'm going to ask one more set of questions, and then I'm going to ask you to wrap up because we're getting closer to time. Sure. You talked about the bar. Bar has always played a big part, in my opinion, in your guys' brand. Talk to me a little bit about what the bar scene is like, and kind of how do you consider innovation even on the bar side? Because I think that is a reason, not only great food, but some unique experience on the bar side. I know you guys have your standards, but you guys also are relatively innovative on that side. You guys are coming up with stuff that's different. That's not just your standard bar menu on a consistent basis. So talk to me a little bit about that as well.
Yeah. And there's, and again, I think the bar is, again, guest experience in a great gathering place. Our bars are so big and there's so much room in there to really, you could have a large party in the bar and not feel, cramped. But yeah, the innovation, I think I would say in our beverage director has done a great job with cocktails. I think that's really a big, driver. We've done some great innovation with our cocktails, really appealing to our guest needs. A lot of maybe some stuff a little too funky where we had to reel it in, but still good, but not a little polarizing maybe. But I think we've done a great job with really our drinks, and then our food. On the other hand, we have some great specials with that to pair with those cocktails. So yeah, I mean, there's that standard opportunity of food that you get there, but I think it's also just a great gathering place to be. So yeah, the bar is awesome. It really is.
Oh no, and it's an experience.
Place to hang out.
It's one of those places that if I'm going and I'm traveling, with coworkers and I see a Black Angus, it's like a place to go hang, and you got a couple coworkers after work and you go hit it up because you can get a fantastic meal and everybody can have something different. I was poking around a little bit on the website prior to our show. Talk to me about the bourbon experience. What is the bourbon experience? Can you educate our listeners a little bit to that before we close for the day?
Yeah, sure. So we've done kind of a series of experience dinners. We just did a martini one, which was really cool. We kind of went for an old school James Bond kind of 007 feel with steak Diane. So some classic items that you would expect. What a dirty martini. The next one coming up is going to be a bourbon dinner. So I'm working on that menu. I was jotting some notes down actually on my phone last night at 1 a.m. So, but we, getting that figured out. And then it's basically a 3-course dinner that's paired with different cocktails with bourbon. So it's an entree, a starter, and then a dessert. And, we've tried to incorporate that bourbon or whatever drink we're doing into the food as well too. We did a beer one over the summer, utilizing Sam Adams. And again, another way to partner with our vendors to display some of their new items they have coming out, and how can we make, we did some funky cocktails with beer, not just a beer dinner with a pint of beer. So, and then incorporating that into the food as well. We did a beer cheese for the appetizer. So those are, again, information that's sent out through our loyalty app as well too, which is fantastic. But it's just a great way to come in, have a unique night, typically held on a Thursday. Can come in, get a 3-course dinner for $50 and a really healthy drink, portion of a drink.
A healthy pour. It's something unique and something memorable. I mean, that's the thing that I love that you've continued to talk about, because it really goes back to what we've continued to say, which is guest experience. Creating a unique guest experience where they're going to talk about it, they're going to tell their friends, they're going to have a fantastic experience, and they're going to get something that's different. Because nothing against the standard ribeye and just going and getting baked potato and a ribeye, because those are also awesome, or a fillet or whatever, a sirloin steak. And at the same time, those other opportunities to have something different and unique that create memorable moments that you can talk to. And it's affordable. Who gets a 3-course meal for $50 with a drink?
It is. And it allows us to do, some cool innovation on those one night experience as well too. And it's a good way for us to just interact with our guests too, kind of slow down the dinner experience. We're, usually It's usually tables of 2, sometimes 4, but really allows our servers to interact with the guests and just get to know them a little bit, and then talk about our food and what we can do with bourbon, what we can do with steak, other than, like you said, a ribeye. So they've been great. Really been enjoying doing them and innovating against them.
Yeah, it's I mean, it sounds like a pretty cool experience that I would encourage our listeners to go check out. So, Jim, if people want to learn more about how to engage with the loyalty program, come into the brand, connect with you, how would they get connected? Where are you guys at? I know you guys talked about Hawaii. I'm sure lots of people volunteer to go check your store out in Hawaii.
Sure.
But with that, how would they engage with you? How would they engage with the Black Angus brand to learn more?
Sure. So obviously we're on every social media platform, and then also our website, blackangus.com. And then you can download, as we spoke about, our loyalty app as well too. So that app will deliver all the experiences that we're doing, some of our upcoming events, and then all those perks you get with the loyalty program. So that's definitely a good start. Avocado toast will be coming to you, so I'll direct those emails to your box.
Okay, perfect. Well, all I want to know is are there videos of you dancing on TikTok? Because I'll go follow Black Angus on TikTok if for whatever reason your little's going to show up dancing on TikTok.
Not yet. I'm hoping, and I used to do it a while back and didn't have time, obviously, because of family and kids playing sports and all that. But hoping to get back into playing banjo again. So if I can start my banjo lessons back up again, then that'll be me dancing with a banjo cooking a steak on TikTok.
Sounds perfect. Well, Jim, I can't thank you enough for sharing a little bit about your experience, both personally, professionally, and kind of what you guys are doing at Black Angus. I know that it holds a special place in those people's hearts that have been there and been going, but it's not your grandfather's or your father's Black Angus anymore. And I love that you guys are continuing to innovate. And so I want our audience to hear that. To our audience, guys, I know I said it at the onset. You guys have got lots of choices. So if you haven't already subscribed to the show on YouTube, on whatever your favorite podcast player is, please do so. If you guys have got guests that you guys want me to have on, please send them my way. We'd love to talk with them about it. If you want to know about avocado toast, feel free. Jim, thank you so much for taking the time, and to our audience, make it a great day.
Thank you. Likewise.